Thank you, Lena, for coming, for having this conversation with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're in New Jersey, isn't it? I think it is.
Yeah, New Jersey, USA, East Coast. Yeah.
I always get confused. Is New Jersey part of the New York sort of area, or is it separate in its own?
It's a different state, yeah. So it's like it's New York, New Jersey, and then there's Pennsylvania where Philadelphia is, and these are different states. So where we are, when I first moved here, we were in Jersey City, just across the water from New York, and then we moved here to South Jersey, where now I'm like 30 minutes away from Philly, and I'm like an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 40 minutes away from New York City, like depending on whereabouts we want to go. So,
all right. So it's New Jersey's kind of more north, I'm guessing, of New York. It's not south.
No, it's south. Yeah, it's New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, where Philadelphia is. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I see. Okay. Cool. I've never been to America, so I'm a tourist.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Listen. I didn't realize till I got here just how big it is. I'm always learning. I'm still like touristy. I'm still, my husband. If we go through, Manhattan or whatever, I'm still like, wow, and he's like, you still haven't got over, got over it. I'm like, no, it's still nostalgic for me, just because, I was brought up, brought up watching TV, and you see the things on TV, then it's here in reality. You're like, oh my gosh.
Home Alone and stuff like that. I know what you mean. Yeah, it's definitely
yeah,
it's definitely strange. I want to travel next year, hopefully. Speaking of traveling, as we already know, with the current status in 2020, it's quite weird because all I've seen on the TV screens from this whole entire year has just been a fear campaign, and the biggest fear campaign has been COVID. So it's not just the fear of loss of job, the fear of losing sanity, or the fear of losing income. It's the fear of catching this coronavirus. And as much as I want to do 100 podcasts on coronavirus, I'm not going to, because I feel that there's enough information and facts out there for you to research for themselves. But the main thing with this whole fear campaign is death and dealing with death. So I felt like having a conversation with you, because you're very much more intellectual, spiritual, and more level-minded when it comes to dealing with a reality that we all have to face. Not to say that no one can't, but most people tend to hide away from death. So, you would tell a child may ask you, oh, mommy, how long are you going to live for? And you'd be like, oh, don't worry about that. Mommy's going to live forever. But it's like, that's not always the case. Mommy is going to transcend.
Yeah.
And I need to prepare you for that, so that when I do transcend, you understand where I'm going, and you understand what you need to do on this earth to make sure my transition is easier. So, but what is death to you as a person? I know you're not religious, from what I can remember. So how do you see death? What's death to you?
So look, I'm not religious, but I was brought up in a Muslim household. Most of my family are Muslim. Also, I am very well kind of like self-educated on, the Bible, different schools of the Bible. I'm going to Bible studies in churches, going into temples with Hare Krishnas, Hinduism, diving into so many different things to try and understand. I was very curious. And so, two of the greatest fears that people have is one is death, and the other is like public speaking. It's really interesting that some people would rather die than do public speaking. Is what I think the second most common fear after death. And so for me, death is a transition. What happens then? The truth is we don't know. Every religion has their monopoly on it. Hey, if you do what this book says, this is going to happen after death. But the truth is no human has died. Even if people have near-death experiences, loads of people would have had near-death experiences. I've spoken to people that have been, clinically, whatever, died for 5 minutes and they've been resuscitated or whatever. But that's still not death. No one has died, has come back. And so for me, it's a transition. And we don't need to know that. My dad died in in April, and then after that we've had so many other deaths, like his business partner, our family business partner, you know, over that 2 decades being with us, he died as well. Our family dog, like my husband's family dog, she died as well in June, and then you know, my mom's cousin died, and then my sister-in-law's nan died. Like, there's been a lot of deaths, and for me it's part of nature. Just like for us to see the truth of it, if we just look at nature, look at the seasons, you know, look at all other animals, like look at everything, you learn that, okay, well, death is a part of nature, and if it wasn't necessary, it wouldn't happen. If winter wasn't necessary in certain, like the whole cycle, right, the 4 seasons, it's part of nature. So the thing that is certain for all humans is we're going to die. If we're born, straight away, at some point, we're going to die. And so there's no point in us worrying. Like, worrying doesn't do anything. Being scared doesn't do anything other than limit your ability to create your life. It just limits you. It limits your mind, because you're always acting out of fear. It just creates massive, massive limitations. We don't know the potential, what the full capacity of a human being's achievements are. We don't know, because every time we think there's a limit, a human kind of, you know, goes past it. And so we don't know, but what we do know is that fear limits someone's ability to create. And so we don't know. And it was really interesting when my dad died, seeing different people in the family respond to it. And it's really interesting, the people that were most religious, they were the ones that were suffering the most, even if they hadn't spoken to him for years, even if they hadn't checked on us for ages. Because, you know, my dad died very slowly, over 10 years, from Alzheimer's. And for us, like, so it was almost like, okay, I've lost my father twice, because I had to deal with losing the father I grew up with to the person who got Alzheimer's, who forgot who we were, forgot everything, how to eat, how to dress, how to speak, how to do everything. So that was like a death to one father, like over 10 years ago. Now it was like, okay, his physical passing. And so obviously I was in America, my family in the UK. He passed away because of COVID and stuff. I couldn't fly there straight away. So when I did go, and I felt like I kind of needed the closure I just wanted to visit his grave. And I did ask myself, if there was no grave, like, you know, how would I find closure? And it's just psychological. I would have been able to find it. But the fact that there was a grave there in the UK, okay, fine. I was able to go. And even as I was sitting on the grave, I was just like, you know, there was a member of my family that was like talking and praying and putting on and I was like, do you think, like, we're here for us, like the body is here, but I think the spirit, whatever energy, whatever that was in that has gone somewhere, we don't know where, it's gone. Who are you playing the music for? Him. I said, you think he can hear you? When you're talking, you think he can hear you? It creates comfort for us to think that, but there's no evidence for us to think that when someone's in the grave, because that means that then their spirit's still in the body, and that's not the case. You know, if anyone's seen a dead body, it's like it's the body still there, but the energy, the life force energy, the energy inside, like the light, whatever you want to call, that's gone. Like, it's so interesting when you see a dead body. And so, you know, it was really interesting, because for me, I realized that I'm here. My thing was, I'm here for me.
Yeah.
Like, if my dad can hear me, okay, wonderful. But because there's no evidence on it, I'm not going to kind of go into some belief system there's no evidence for. If he can, great. But what I do know is that his physical body is here still. Something's gone, the spirit, right? That's gone somewhere, onto another journey. And there was something that I read about 2 weeks after my dad died. I was reading his book, and it said something along the lines of when your dearest, or when they pass away, don't go and see fortune tellers, don't go and see mediums and spiritualists, whatever it is. He said, it's none of you, because it's none of your business what they're doing right now. Leave them in peace, leave them to be. And then, you know, and it kind of really helped. It brought this humor to it. I was like, it's so true. Because there I was thinking about my dad. I was meditating on it. I was thinking of, you know, you know, what he's doing, where he's, you know, all these things. And it was like, it kind of sobered me up to the reality of, it's true, it's none of my business. It'll be my business when it's my time. I'll know that'll be my business. And I ain't going to be able to come here and tell you. You know what I mean? That's you will find out when it's your time. So if we can just make peace with the fact that, look, you know, winter is very beautiful when you're not out in the cold. If you've got a nice jumper on, you know, yesterday it was snowing and it was so beautiful just to see the snow, or when there's like a thunderstorm, you're indoors. It's so beautiful. It's nature. And so what if the next life is even more beautiful? Because what happens after winter comes spring, and spring, everyone loves spring, when, oh, you know, the flowers start to bud a little bit, and the trees that look dead, they come alive again. And so what if our end is a new beginning? You know, we don't know. That's the whole thing. We don't know. So how about we just make peace with the fact that one day we're going to die? I might die tonight. I might die in 50 years' time. As long as I'm at peace right now in the moment, and I'm not living, you know, with limitations, with fear. Because if I was to go today, I mean, I love life, so I want to live. But if I die tomorrow, okay, I'm not going to be suffering. I'm going to be another, wherever that is. People around me that might miss me, they might suffer a little bit. They might miss me. But do you know what I mean?
It's interesting what you just said there. That's very powerful, because I wasn't expecting when you said how.
One sec, Jess. Sorry, let me reattach my headphones because I can hear a lot of feedback. I don't want your.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay, I've just changed it. Hopefully, you can hear me still. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you still. Everything too. But yeah, it's like what you said is very interesting, because you know, the person that, you know, when you was at the grave, you was chatting. Say you was you know, making sort of closure with your father and stuff like that, and the woman's obviously, you know, your family members behind, you know, playing music, this and that, and for you to say that, you know what, it's none of our business. That's very, very, very. I think that's very, very, very cool, because not cruel, but cool in the sense of like good, because it's like, why would you want to trouble a soul that's already been on here, served their purpose, clearly why they're transitioning?
Yeah.
Why would you still want to trouble their wake and, you know, or their transition or their journey? Because again, I know obviously in our culture, in the Ghanaian culture, particularly Fanti and Ashanti culture, or the Akadan, I should say, we do have, you know, a Vodom or voodoo, as you will call it, where you would obviously celebrate, you know, ancestors, spirits, and whatnot. With us, it's sort of like we help them transition to that place. So we would have the ceremony. Normally in Fanti culture, you would sort of wear white and black, not black like fully black, but it would encourage us to wear white because you're celebrating life.
And I think another culture as well, they wear white when people die. They celebrate that this person's finished their journey here. They celebrate it. I like that.
And this is the thing, because we don't believe, obviously there's people that mourn. And yeah, I mean, you probably see a lot of viral videos on Instagram of Ghanaian funerals where it's like open casket and, you know, they're dancing with the casket and all that kind of stuff. Is because they celebrate the journey or their transition. So you got to think about it as the dead person transitioning. His funeral is like an award show for him, you know, and he's being received by whoever at the end. Now, we participate in helping that person transition. There's obviously certain things you got to do, certain rituals you got to do, just to make sure that there's no, because what people tend to not do is respect the dead. So there's issues where you could have, I don't know, say a death in the family. Maybe it could have been tragic, but you know, the children don't want to come to the funeral, or this person's will come to the funeral, or both families are at war. Now that could make the spirit troubled. And essentially, according to some of those cultures, if you don't allow them to transition, it's like you're holding them back. And this is where you get the whole idea of corrupt spirits or curses or whatnot, because it's like, hey, you're not letting me go. You know, I want to get on my bus and go home, but you're saying to me, no, I'm not letting you get on your bus because I don't want to drive it to your destination or whatever reason. So it's very interesting to see that with more or less other cultures, they tend to, allow the person to go. Whereas some cultures, like Western cultures, for example, with death, there's more of a sort of, let's dwell in the moment of us losing somebody, and let's just live by that. So it's funny because, I know why people are afraid of death.
It's the unknown, isn't it?
It's
people
the unknown.
Are scared of things that they don't know.
And that's the thing. It's like, to be scared of the unknown requires you then to think, well, how am I educated on death itself? And my only thing for me when it came to death in school, my only part of education was, hey, this is Halloween. This is
Halloween.
Because again, and we're going to touch on the Halloween festivals and stuff and that in a minute, because I think it's very significant to not worship the dead, but to celebrate their transitioning process. Because again, when it comes to life on Earth, not everyone lives the right way. We don't know what the official right way is. Again, like you said, people go through religious concepts and whatnot. And I do find it a bit funny that those that are in religious belief systems struggle the most when they're supposed to be the strongest according to their religious belief systems. Have faith.
Because there's conflict with the truth. What they've been conditioned with intellectually, like, it's not my job to tell somebody whatever, religion to follow or not follow. I have clients from around the world, right? So I have like professionals, business owners, mothers, what have you, all different walks of life from all over the world, different religious systems. Some of them might be Christian, Hindu, Muslim. Okay, that's your belief system. That's what you put your life on. But you don't believe it because your behavior says this. There's conflict. Your mind is programmed, and you believe this intellectually, but actually let's take a look at your actions, which speak louder than anything. Your actions show there's conflict in your mind. If you really believe this, you would not be acting like this. If you really, but you don't. This brings you comfort. It allows you not to think about things like death. It allows you not to think, because it thinks for you. Hey, we've got the answers. You don't need to find them out. And unless you really care about truth and you really dive into these, but you really want to know the truth, and again, don't go by anything I say. If you're a Christian, if you're Muslim, if you're Hindu, research, like, who wrote your book? God wrote the book. God wrote the book, or God wrote the book through a person or through some enlightened human, or okay. So who wrote the book? How many years after the person died was the book written? I'm not being funny, but if anyone, the most closest, dearest people to me, if 60 years after I die or 200 years after I die, a book is written about me, they might get some quotes right. They might get some ideas and philosophies right, but how would it be as accurate as if I was to write the book? And even if I did write the book and it's passed down and edited through centuries, how accurate is it going to be by the time 2,000 years, 1,000 years, 500 years, whatever, So it's like, do the research, because it's really, really, really interesting. Like, sometimes I might meet Christians and I follow the Bible. Which Bible? Because I've read a few different ones. I just want to know for reference. I'm not taking a piss. For reference to understand where their psyche is. Which Bible? A lot of the times it's something along the lines of the King James. Who is King James? You don't know. You don't know who edited this, but your life's on it. Who's King James? Furthermore, what happened at the Council of Nicaea? Most people don't. What's that? This is when they this is the reform, when they edited out books from the Bible. What did they do with the book? Why did they take out certain books? What did they put in? What did they take out? Why? Why did they take out 20 plus books that are documented? Imagine 20 plus books have been taken out of the Bible. With the Quran, well, the word of God, the last word, the last prophet. Who wrote the book? Wasn't Muhammad, when he died in war. And by the way, when he died in war, I don't know, I wasn't there, but what's documented in history. The people who were the best reciters of like his prayers and stuff, they all died as well. So what his hangouts thought, and I call them the hangouts, but whoever, his disciples, his people, before anyone else dies, we need to get this stuff written down. Like, what? That's not what I was taught growing up. I thought it was direct, like God spoke to him and he wrote the thing. Like, but if most of it wasn't written till after these people died, again, you're talking of anything created by humans that is going to be flawed. But don't believe me, do your research. If you go throughout history, it's so interesting. And if you're curious about truth, you'll go into things without judgment. Don't judge right or wrong. Don't judge, like, just go with an objective, like just a clean mind, an open mind, just curious about these things. It's for the brave, because the truth is for the brave. Most people prefer a comfortable lie than an uncomfortable truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very powerful what you just said there. The religious stuff I've been shouting at for years, because I was once religious. I was a Christian myself, and I did the same sort of, just basic level questioning. It's not, you don't have to be a super intellect. You just have to ask simple questions like, okay, cool, who wrote the book? Okay, King James. When you research King James, you probably will put the book down, because you realize this guy was a very, very much, horrible person. When you understand the Council of Nicaea, you can see the Romans are trying to come together to control so-called rebel groups in Africa or the Middle East. And basically they're saying, look, the only way we can control them is via their culture. And what we can do is piece their cultures together into a book system that we will ordain the rights to follow. You speak about the Flavians, the family that created the whole concept of a Christ, and and when you go deep into, again, what death is and why are people so afraid of it, and you go to religion, it just shows you at the end of the whole entire game, your actions always speak louder than words, like you said, but it's fear that shows in your actions. It's fear that shows because your words, like you said, it can be lies. Oh, I believe that God will protect me. All right, cool. So why don't you walk outside blindfolded?
Yeah.
So
or the worst one, the devil made me do it. The devil made him do it. No, take responsibility. You made a bad decision, and that's okay. But you'll be able to, if you live in truth, that okay, I made a decision, I messed up. Whatever, I made a bad. We all do. We all make messed up decisions. How can we grow otherwise, right? So okay, we make a decision, but it's not. If you blame the devil, you're not even taking responsibility for your own actions. You will never grow from that.